Hello and welcome to today's Linkability webinar. I'm your host, Lynnaire Johnston, and I'm a LinkedIn trainer, specialist and author. Today we're looking at a favourite topic of mine, content, but content with a twist. And that twist is the challenges that we're currently experiencing in successfully creating content here on LinkedIn, because I'm sure that you'll have noticed it too, a recent dramatic decrease in organic reach. In other words, fewer people are seeing our content, fewer of us are getting more opportunities to showcase our skills and expertise, and engagement is often lower too. In previous webinars and lives, we've covered content extensively, and if you'd like to check out those events, you're welcome to do so at our YouTube channel, and the link for that is going to be appearing on the screen right now, just like magic. Today, we're reviewing the current formats available and talking about the problems that creators are facing. On top of lower organic reach, there's increased competition from 25 million new members joining every quarter, many of whom are content creators from other platforms. And when you add that to the fact that LinkedIn is reducing the number of organic posts that show in our news feeds in favor of paid ads, the challenges are starting to mount. We'll be talking about the options we have to work with at the moment and how to use them to regain that lost ground. Before we get to that, I want to emphasize that organic reach is not the holy grail of success on LinkedIn. In fact, it's a vanity metric that's unreliable because it estimates, notice, the number of feeds that your post has been delivered to, not the number who've actually seen it or even read it. The only place that you can see the number of real views is with videos. And the metrics for that hide in the analytics section and is different to the post impression numbers. Instead of using views as a KPI, you're better to measure engagement. That's reactions and comments, of course. Also, reposts are a good indicator, as are the number of invites that you receive from the people that you want to connect with, plus inquiry DMs. So now I think that we should have a quick look at the different post types that we've got at the moment and how they're currently performing. We'll start with text posts. So up to 3,000 characters long, they can contain only text and perhaps emojis and symbols as well. These perform relatively well, but they don't display very nicely, unfortunately, and that's particularly noticeable if you pin that to your featured section. Image posts are the most common post type, but generally they don't perform terribly strongly. So other formats are often much better than this. But that might be due to what's on the image. Some people, often women, I've noticed, choose to publish full-size photos of themselves that don't relate to the content of the post. Other people, like me, like to make the text the centerpiece and tuck the photo of themselves away in a corner where it's not so noticeable or dominant. Some images have photos on them, some are all just text, some have none. So the best shape for a photo is often square. Now, the variation on image posts is this one. It's the template version available on the app. And to this, you can add some decorative elements along with LinkedIn, with live links rather, to a web page, your company page, your LinkedIn company page, plus you can tag someone in these as well. As you can see, though, they're quite long and thin. What you can't see is how poorly this particular post is done comparative to the others. Video is becoming increasingly important absolutely everywhere online, and the same is true for LinkedIn. Videos perform well, they get great engagement, and now that LinkedIn has introduced captions, the barrier to entry has significantly dropped. On captions, I don't find LinkedIn's version of these terribly reliable. And on the last post I did, they didn't appear at all. So I'll be going back to closed captions, doing the captions off LinkedIn so that they are imported with the video. Captions are super important. I can't emphasize that enough because so many people watch the videos with the sound off. Now, they're also helpful for people for whom English is a second language, and for those who struggle with people who have funny accents like mine. If you are doing video, though, keep them short, around a minute or even less. After that, view numbers tend to drop off. Your accompanying text with your video should explain what the video is all about, so do remember to do that too. Now, my personal favorite document posts are also known as slideshows or even carousels by some people. Whatever you decide to call it, you're best to keep the word count on each of your slides low and the number of your slides down. So no more than 11 if you want the highest reach. I use this when I have multiple images that I want to use with a post, and also potentially want to use text as well on each of them. And I use this specifically on my fortnightly LinkedIn new features post. So that gives me a good opportunity to explain a bit about the new feature as well as to show what it looks like. Now, document posts seem to do well even when times are tough with the algorithm like they seem to be at present. Polls were huge about a year ago. You might remember this. Every second post in your feed was probably a poll, but they have steadily declined in reach ever since that. The number of votes on your poll, though, it seems to have no bearing to the view number. And so that really can be quite different. So the view number can be quite high despite the voter turnout being low, which seems a little odd to me, but that's the way it works. The key to a poll is to ask a question that has wide appeal and is simple to answer without too much thought. Celebrate an occasion is my least favorite post format because they generally do very, very poorly indeed, unless you are changing jobs. Then they seem to do quite a bit better. Now, there are 7 types of celebrate an occasion post. You can use these for announcing a new role, an educational achievement, which is the example I've got here, giving kudos to someone else, achieving a certification, welcoming a new team member, celebrating a work anniversary, and launching a project. Now, usually these are displayed with one of the default image options that LinkedIn offers, but it's also possible to add a photo of your own, as you can see here, which might help reach. It didn't in this case. This particular post failed dismally. Articles have long been considered the poor cousin to posts, unfairly in my view, but they nevertheless have a big role to play in your LinkedIn content. They have longevity, where posts can just come and go, as you know, and they are reliably indexed by Google. So they build into a library of thought leadership content, expert commentary, and credible knowledge transfer. More on that bit in a moment. Articles give you the opportunity to embed videos, presentations, and images. Plus, they can be formatted with bold italics and underlined text, along with nicely displayed quotes. Regularly adding articles is a sensible content addition, in my view. Now, newsletters are something that I am very keen on. These are very similar to articles in terms of formatting and layout, but they differ in that the people who subscribe to them receive a notification each time you put out a new issue or edition. So getting your subscriber numbers up is a really good idea to make sure that your newsletter gets wide reach. To each of your newsletters, you can add your own SEO title and description. You can do this to articles as well, and that helps them to be found in online searches. Newsletters seem to be a format that perform really well once you get some good subscriber numbers. You can create your own newsletters from your profile and from your company page. Rarely thought of as content, but content nonetheless, events give you an opportunity to reach wider audiences, enhance your relationships in your field, develop your reputation, and provide additional content. For instance, we turn our events into posts, articles, add them to our newsletters, create video clips, sometimes even ebooks, and also use them repurposed for our company page. You're only limited by the resources that you have at your disposal to repurpose your content. Let's move on to the challenges currently facing content creators. Ever since I started taking LinkedIn seriously in 2016, I've been a huge fan of creating content. In fact, it was the opportunity to do this, to publish posts that other professionals could then read, that got me hooked. And to this day, I remain adamant that posting quality posts is one of the best LinkedIn strategies there is. It allows you to become visible to those you want to do business with. It builds your credibility as an authority in your field, and it allows you to share your knowledge and experience with others who may be wanting to learn what you already know. This is my particular love, reporting on what's new and what's working or not on LinkedIn. Now, you'll likely have a different motivation for publishing content here, but underlying what we all do is the fact that we need people to know how we can help them. The key is in explaining this through quality posts that people want to read, or in the case of video, to watch. But challenges are coming thick and fast. First, the algorithm seems to have begun downplaying organic posts in favor of sponsored and paid for content and feeds. If you look at your feed, for instance, you're likely to see that the second post is always sponsored content of some kind. And if you continue down, you'll see even more of it in between non-sponsored posts. So you'll see organic content in between the paid ones. So this means, of course, that you're seeing fewer organic posts, and the net result of this is lower organic reach or views or impressions. They all mean the same thing. The second challenge is increased competition. Every quarter, as I've already mentioned, LinkedIn gains another 25 million members, and it's predicted that the 1 billion mark will have been reached by early next year. While that's a good thing overall, it means there's more competition for space in the feed because a lot of these newcomers are creating content just like you and me. They've often come across from other platforms where they might have been really successful with it, and they've brought with them their content nous. In other words, they know what they're doing, they know how to grab attention, and they're out to do that on LinkedIn too. Well, fortunately for you and I, they tend to use the same techniques here as they did elsewhere, which we both know doesn't necessarily work. So short promotional posts that might have performed strongly on Facebook, for instance, may not hit the mark here on LinkedIn. But while they have a bit to learn, these content creators will learn it fast, so we need to watch out for them. Another challenge that we need to be aware of is personal posts being sponsored. So this is when your post, you upload a post via your profile and it is picked up by your company, which then pays for it to be seen by a targeted audience. Your name is still front and center, but the post displays as sponsored content in addition to your organic post. This is still in beta testing, but here's an example of that, and you can see the line promoted by Microsoft. It's entirely possible that savvy companies which recognize the leverage to be gained from their employees creating content on LinkedIn will get on board with this when it gets rolled out. And as I've said before, more space in the feed is being devoted to sponsored posts from companies. So this combines the best of both worlds, the reach of those posts along with the interest that personal posts garner. Now, this is a controversial move by LinkedIn, and it's being speculated that it could signal the beginning of the end of organic reach for posts as we know it. But we will just have to wait and see. A further challenge is the new activity page on our profiles, which I also see as an opportunity. So I'm going to return to this in a few minutes. You may not yet have this new layout. It still seems to be being rolled out. So the challenges that this presents, let's look at that first of all. So by displaying our content by format type, visitors to our profile have to work harder to see what we've posted. They need to go tab by tab to see our video and our image posts, then go to the end to see our document posts or slideshows. Now, if someone only wants to watch videos, they'll make judgments about your content by what you have in this section. The same with other types of posts. Now, this means that if you want to get as wide an audience as possible to see your content about a particular topic, you'll need to produce a post in each of these formats to cover it. But if you do that in consecutive posts, you're looking like you're just repeating yourself, and that alienates people. So you need to be careful about how you go about that. It's a conundrum, I accept that, but as I say, I think this also represents opportunities, and we will talk more about that in just a minute. The final hurdle that I want to talk about today is that the fact that your personal content is being shown to your first degree connections at the expense of your professional content. Now, what do I mean by that? It is a bit confusing. Well, Kevin D. Turner highlighted this in a recent post, and what he said was this: I prefer seeing the professional knowledge shares of my second and third level connections because I don't know them well enough to want to see their personal stuff. I also want to see both professional and personal shares from my first level connections. So this means that if you were to post about an incident in your life, I saw one the other day about a woman reporting a car crash. Again, she said. That's a story in itself, isn't it? So she crashed her car and she wrote a post about it. Now, this would be more likely to be seen by her first degree connections than those further out in her network. Now, you might be fine with that, but these people have connected with you because they are interested in what you do. They want to learn from you, and they've already shown interest by connecting. So they're the ones that you want to impress with your knowledge and ideas. Maybe a car crash isn't the way to do it. Of course, the counter argument to this is that by showing your professional posts to those not connected with you, it encourages them to reach out and connect. So the question I have is, what happens when, like me, you rarely post personal content? And that, I am afraid to say, is rather unclear. Now that we understand the challenges that creators are currently facing, let's turn our attention to some of these solutions. And I want to report that what some of my colleagues in the industry are saying about this. Let's start with Richard van der Blom. Now, you may know that Richard is the creator of the annual Algorithm Report. In it, he takes a deep dive into all aspects of content creation, plus engagements, events, groups, and a whole lot of other things. He's the most plugged in person on the planet when it comes to how the algorithm dictates what we see in our feeds. And in a recent post, he said the reason that content fails is because it's not aligned with your target audience. In this post, you can see here, he says people follow trends on how to publish, that's formats and other ideas, but forget to align their content with the needs and challenges of their ideal client profile. And this makes sense to me because in my 20 years as a copywriter, I found that the biggest problem was clients wanting to talk about themselves and their companies and not what their customers wanted. It's really important to put yourselves in the shoes of your customers and talk about what you have to offer from their point of view rather than from your own. So you need to know who your ideal customer is and the challenges that they are facing if you want to do this. So if you align your content with that, you will build trust, and that will turn you into the go-to person in your industry. Now, one final quote from this post: the most successful content is not measured by impressions or likes. It's measured by incoming invites and DMs from potential customers. And I absolutely agree. Another person who's been recently talking about content is Mark Williams, Mr. LinkedIn. Now, he's the host of the excellent podcast LinkedIn Formed, which I highly recommend if you're not already following. In his most recent episode, he talked about knowledge transfer. He said this is gold for content. Here's what he said: there are plenty of signals coming from LinkedIn to suggest that content they categorize as knowledge transfer will be treated favorably by the algorithm. So it makes sense that, as Mark suggests, we start producing more of that type of content. And that's, of course, sharing what we know, not in a preachy way, but by teaching through shared experiences. For instance, use an incident, perhaps not a car crash, an incident that happened to you or a client, and build a post around it to identify the problem and share a solution. But you don't want to be promotional with these. Now, in each of my posts, I try to share at least one tip or idea, even when the post is being used to promote an upcoming event. So don't preach, teach in your posts is Mark's advice. Chat GPT. This has been much in the news for creating content of recent weeks with varying opinions on how useful it is. Generally, other LinkedIn trainers and authorities aren't in favour of using it for posts unless it's to generate ideas. The problem with using it for posts is that you need to either rewrite it in your own voice and with your own knowledge, or risk sounding like everyone else. Training it to sound like you can take time. Plus, you have to you have to fact check everything it says, because there are many instances of it producing content that's just plain wrong. And after all, it gets its info from the internet, and we all know how reliable that can be. But AI is here to stay. So we all need to get to grips with it, understand it, how it works, and to decide for ourselves how to use it in our own LinkedIn content. Personally, I find it repetitive, filled with jargon, and pretty much unreadable. If all you're doing is producing content for the content's sake, then this might be fine, absolutely. But if, like me, you want to actually help people to do better by sharing opinions, ideas, and experience, then you're best doing it yourself. And the same if you're wanting to develop your credibility in your particular space. By all means, use ChatGPT to generate ideas, but then you need to turn it into a post that speaks of you and by you. Let's briefly return now to the new activity page, which, while presenting challenges, as I've already outlined, is also an opportunity. Why? Because you can repurpose your content into different formats for each of the tabs. So what was a challenge is now an opportunity. So say, for instance, you have connections who prefer to watch video rather than read text. What are you offering them if you just write text posts? Probably not enough to build trust and to show them the scope of your knowledge and experience. But what if you were to repurpose your text content into different formats? So from a text post, you might get a video, a document post, a poll, and an image post as well. So that means you get a whole load more content for your money. You could also add it to your newsletter actually too. You just need to make sure it's not being repetitive. Perhaps add a different point to each one, or re-angle it to give it a different focus. And of course, don't post them all in succession. Now, I was talking the other day to a friend of mine in the US, a friend of mine, Joanne Funch, and we were talking about content. And she was talking to me about the challenge of getting people to relate on LinkedIn. So what she was talking about is engaging at a relational level. Now, I mentioned knowledge transfer just before, and that's a good example of good content, of course. Sharing knowledge, sharing experience, mistakes and learnings with others on a similar path to you will get you noticed by the right people. In other words, don't get on LinkedIn and try to sell, because that's just simply not going to work. Instead, you need to, and I'm quoting Joanne here, you need to engage with people at a relational level. You need to connect with them in some way, whether that's through a shared problem, showing you understand their frustration, or simply turning up in their LinkedIn feed regularly. Joanne's final point on this, which I thought was worth sharing with you, was that content needs to align with your goals. And so that's fairly similar to what Richard was saying about your target audience. In Joanne's case, she's talking here about your professional goals. So if, for instance, you want to build credibility with a target market or target audience, resharing other people's content, uploading funny videos, or publishing irrelevant polls are probably not going to help you achieve that. Instead, you should be adding value to your posts, sharing ideas and useful information that helps others. Finally, and here's my last suggestion for overcoming content challenges, don't give up. Joanne also mentioned this. Too many people try LinkedIn expecting the moon and the stars, but pretty quickly quit when they don't get near instant results. LinkedIn is a marathon, not a sprint. I've said it before, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you're going to leverage the opportunities the platform provides, you need to be here for the long haul. Joanne also pointed out to me that the algorithm favors consistency, so stick with it. A lot of people are going to give up because of the current challenges, so don't be one of them. Keep creating quality content that your audience wants to read. Publish as frequently as you can, but set yourself realistic expectations. If you consistently post once a week and you engage on other people's posts much more often than that, you'll start to see results. So keep your expectations in line with what you can actually manage. Now, there's no question that organic content is under pressure. The decline in reach hit pages, company pages last year. Now it's hitting posts from profiles. With increased competition for space in the feed, the potential arrival of sponsored personal posts, the new activity page, and connections not seeing professional posts from you, our posts are under pressure from all sides. But let's not despair. In fact, let's see this as an opportunity to stand out from others by producing quality content that attracts our target audience and shares useful knowledge. Repurpose your content into different formats. Use ChatGPT wisely. Engage at a relational level and don't become a quitter. If you've got suggestions as well that you'd like to share with those who are with us on the live event today, I would love to hear from you. So please do pop those into the comments and we'll take questions in just a moment. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, look, Lynnaire, this is all very well. You've given us a whole bunch of reasons why we need to be redoing our content and not quitting and staying on it with LinkedIn, but I really am not terribly sure how to go about that, then here might be the answer for you. Let me introduce you to our Linkability members community. This is an opportunity to learn about LinkedIn at your own pace and put it into practice in a community that's all about being supportive and helpful. We have a huge range of content, including articles and checklists that you're welcome to check out for 7 days, absolutely free. And those who go on to become members also get up-to-the-minute LinkedIn news and tips and trends in a dedicated LinkedIn group. Plus, our members actively support each other's posts. So if you're serious about LinkedIn, please do check that out. And if we're not yet connected, please do reach out to me and mention this webinar and I'll be happy to connect with you. Then you'll see much more of my content in all its various formats, all aimed at helping you to leverage the power of LinkedIn to achieve your professional goals. And so now let's take some of your questions. And I'm just going to pop up to the top here and see whether there's anybody who's asked any questions that we need to answer here today. I'm sure there'll be something. She said videos, documents, and articles. Let me just put this one up on the here we go. So I'm just going to do this. So Isabella has can someone summarize which formats are best? I can do that, Isabella, right here and right now. And the best formats for us currently are video and document posts. They are the two that are performing the best for us. Now, you might not find that that's the same for you. It might be something completely different. But newsletters also do really well, but that's because we've got good subscriber numbers. So I would suggest that you have a look at doing videos. It's always a really good idea to be doing videos on LinkedIn because they can be shown to be directly you in person, and that they are then really easy for people to know, okay, that's exactly who this person is, and it helps develop those relationships. All right, so let's move on to this one here. Should we focus on one genre for posting content? If you mean by one topic, Lavanya, what's a nice name? Lavanya, I like that. Then I would say no. You would want to have a bit of variety amongst your topics. You want to try and keep it closely aligned to what it is that you do, your main area of expertise, but don't feel that you are constrained by only talking about one thing. People want to see more of you in those kind of more personal posts, perhaps. So do branch out and talk about the things that mean something to you, because authenticity is the critical thing when it comes to posts. You want people to get to know you better and to understand who you are and how you can help them. Let's move on to now. Here's our friend Wayne, and Wayne is asking about different post formats, but what else is needed for a post to be seen positively by LinkedIn? Well, the answer to that, Wayne, is there are several more things that your post needs. It needs to be a good length, so around 1,500 characters is a good length for the text for your post, and that really applies to all of the post types. You need hashtags, of course. So there you want to make sure that you are using hashtags that are really widely seen, very popular hashtags, and a mix of that and, say, an industry or a topic hashtag along with your own personal hashtag. So, of course, my personal hashtag is hashtag Lynnaire. That's not too difficult. And if you use a personal hashtag, it helps to build your community. Thanks for that question, Wayne. Now, let's have a look. Say hello to David. Hello, David. I know that you're from the States. Very nice to have you join us today. Tracking what your posts do. What can be measured can be evaluated, the style, time of day, etc. All right, so those last two things, the style and the time of day, can't really be measured, not by the analytics that LinkedIn provides. For that, you really need to do your own metrics. So keep a note of when you are posting, what time of day potentially, because LinkedIn doesn't even tell you really with your posts after the 21st 24 hours when it was exactly posted. So keep a note of that, where you're keeping details about each of your posts so that you can monitor that. Loosely speaking, though, business posts during business hours and on business days. We don't find Fridays particularly good, but also the odd post, a more personal post at the weekend is also a really good time to be doing something too. How long has LinkedIn been doing live events? This is the first one that Isabella's attended. Well, hello, Isabella. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time out of your busy day to be here live. We do appreciate that. I would say probably 4 or 5 years. Now, that having said that, live events were only available to a select few. You had to apply for them in their early days, and it's really only been probably since early last year that they have been available more widely. When LinkedIn made available Content Creator, it allowed events to become part of that. And so if you have creator mode switched on your profile, then you'll have access to events as well. And I see here a comment from Nicola Kane saying hooks in the first line of posts is key. Nicola, I couldn't agree more with you. That is absolutely important, and that is a really good way to overcome some of these challenges in terms of content that we are currently seeing. So thank you for that input. And David is asking again about format specific to industry goals. Now, yes, I think that that is a very good idea, because some people in some industries will definitely be more interested in some kinds of format posts than in others. Now, I think this isn't something that I tend to think of a lot, but I do think that it's a very good way of deciding which post format type to use. What do the people in your industry actually want? And if I remember rightly, I think David might be in the automotive industry. If not, I'm sorry to have got that wrong. But now people in the automotive industry may really love videos because they love seeing fast cars. So that might be a really good opportunity for you to go down the video track. But do try to think of it from the people who are looking at it, their point of view, before you decide what is the most favored type. But don't forget, as I said, I think it's a good idea to have posts that cover all the different format types. And Lavanya is back with, is it important to focus on likes or just the post impressions? Which one should we consider? Lavanya, unfortunately, post impressions, also called views, are a vanity metric. And LinkedIn are only ever estimating the number of news feeds that they have put your post into, which is what generates that number. So you're quite right that it's more important to focus on likes and on comments. Now, comments are where the real gold is on LinkedIn, because comments will help start a conversation. You can then reach out and talk with people who might be second or third degree connections. They've shown an interest in you, your content and your posts, and that might make them an ideal new prospective customer or client for you. So definitely, I think that you should take more or put more effort into looking at, or perhaps not effort is the wrong word. Perhaps what I'm trying to say here is you should monitor more your engagement numbers. So that's your reactions, that's the likes, and your reposts, shares, and comments. All those are available under analytics. So do have a look at those and check and see what's going on there. And someone's just said that they've created their own personal hashtag. What a great idea. Excellent stuff. Now, Mark Southwell, Southwell, apologies, Mark, if that's not pronounced correctly. No, he's just asking, saying that he has dropped out of the feed. So let me just see whether there was anybody else there. I don't think we've got anybody else there to has got a question or has wanted to ask about anything else. It has been a pleasure having you all here today. Thank you so much, and we are looking forward to our next events coming up in the next few weeks. Now, you may not know that we have an event every Thursday here on Linkability. Sometimes it's a LinkedIn Live and sometimes it's a LinkedIn audio event. We love both those two formats, and in each of those we talk about different topics related to LinkedIn, and we would love you to join us again. And on the slide that's coming up in just a moment, you can see what we've got coming up in the next few weeks. So thanks again for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.